Hi, folks. So, okay, in my nearly 32 years, how many people would I say, obviously, have shown any sign of wanting to be led by God? Well, immediately, Archie has shown a sign. He requested prayer for that purpose so he could be led by God. So that's showing a sign. I would say Blair Crawford was another one. He seemed to have a desire to be led by God at one point. But I think with him, I think other things just got on top, which can happen. Well, because again, what does the devil want to do? He doesn't want to, grab you and throw you way away from God. He wants to help you to decide to keep doing things as you are, and help you to understand that change, so being led by God, is going to be incredibly difficult. So therefore, yeah. So again, if I was to look at that point, that question, how many people? I'd have to say, to be honest, for most of that 32 years, I wouldn't have recognised it had I seen it anyway. So I can't look at it, the situation, and say when the majority of people, the answer would be no. But generally speaking, I'd say Rick Godwin would be another one that I've seen and met, and I would say that he was impressive. Leonard Gill was impressive in many ways, but I'm not sure, well, as a pastor sort of character. Lovely man. Really lovely man. It was an absolute honour to know him. But yeah, more than that, not really. No, of all the churches I've been in, I can't really look back and say that anyone is that I was impressed by anyone. That I could look at someone and say, okay, that person impressed me. Kylie Bevan did for a very short time. Until I started to realise who she was as a person. She impressed me, yes. Yeah, when she asked me to pray for a friend, when I said, it was wrong to do intercessory prayer when you can actually pray for someone, and she didn't react to that. She only reacted to it in the sense of saying, well, can you pray for my friend? That impressed me. But again, I think that was only God wanted that to happen to make me impressed. So I believe that this lady was supposed to be my wife. So I'd stand on that. But again, it is what it is. I have to mention it because for that purpose, for that point, she did impress me. That was quite impressive. Yeah, I'd not come across that before. So therefore that was nice. Yeah, generally speaking, no. It's slim pickings, really. And it's slim pickings because that's the way things are. That's the way people are. People have decided to be that way and to do things that way, and that's okay. That's absolutely fine. That's where people are, and they can do that. Yes, but yeah, in the end, it's all very well and good, and yeah, it's where people are, and so therefore we go, okay, it's fine. Again, was I a person for most of that 20 or 32 years? No, no, and so yeah, I wasn't living up to that myself for most of that time. And so therefore, there is very likely people who are showing that sign now that weren't then, the same as I wasn't then, but am now. So therefore, yeah, that's truth. Truth is, I didn't see a lot of it in the past, or really hardly any of it, really at all. But then again, from my own personal point of view, I would not have been able to see at that point in time because I wouldn't have recognised it had it been standing right in front of me. And that is true. In the River Church, no, there was no one there. In the Community Church of God, no, there was no one there. In the Nigerian church, no, but lovely people, generous and in their nature, lovely, but willing to be led by God, no. But as I say, it wasn't evident. It doesn't mean it wasn't the case, it just wasn't evident. And so the only reason it's been evident from Archie is because he asked for prayer for that. And we spoke about it briefly. But he hasn't shown it in the way he does things that I've seen. Yeah, again, today he's still basically organised for today for some incredibly churchy person, a good little Christian, to present a message in the way that church wants messages to be presented. So not God, church. So therefore, yes, he's not acting, as far as I can tell, as of yet. Well, from what the evidence shows right now, again, you don't know what God is doing in the background. And that's the point. We can't see what God is doing in the background. But yes. Yeah. But it'd be interesting to see. Again, I think there's a lot of people who have a desire for that but don't know how. And so right now that's frustrating because you don't know who these people are. They could be these churchy people. The man who was ministering today and his wife, they could be two of those people that really have a desire for God. It doesn't look like it, but that could be the case because you don't know what's going on in someone's mind and what's going on in their heart. And what they really desire. You can't see that. That's deep, and they, generally speaking, they don't allow that to show. So therefore, don't know. It could very well be that tonight, in his own mind, the man who brought the message today is horrified at what he brought. He could be truly horrified at what he did, and in tears to God about what he did, and having that desire to be led, but not knowing how. That's why it's not our job to judge, and it's not our job to condemn, but it is our job to point out the picture, to point out what we saw, because what we saw is not about judging the person. It's not about saying what's in the person's heart, because we can't tell. What I did say earlier, and was right to say, is that as a worship leader, as someone who is a worship leader, surely what the Lord said about worship should be important. And the evidence suggests that those people in that church and other churches have never bothered to read what the Lord said about worship. Although I know that is untrue. I know that they have read it. I know that most of these people who do worship in churches have read the scripture in John 4, but they've skipped past it nice and quickly. They've seen it as nice, but then they go back in church and make all the worship about the Son and worshipping someone called Jesus when that wasn't actually the Son of God's name. So they're not really worshipping the Son of God because that was never his name. But there you go. They know that as well. Oh yeah, most of them know that. Most worship leaders know that the Son of God was never called Jesus. They know that. They know in their heart of hearts that that's true. So, again, why they do the things they do, they act as if they don't know it. They act as if they don't know all this stuff, but they do. But again, It takes courage. It takes incredible courage to be the first one to stand up and change the way things are done. To make it all about Father, for goodness sake. To be the first one to do that, that's going to take courage. I get that. That's going to take incredible courage. And so, well, especially when all the churches aren't doing that. And when the church you're in probably doesn't want that to happen. Yeah. Because the problem is, again, you give people what they want. And that's the point. That's what people want. They want to do that. They want to come to church and they want to feel that they worship the Lord, even though it's not supposed to be about worshipping the Lord. But they want to feel that they've done that. So therefore, of course, they want worship leaders to present the worship in that way. And so, again, we have to be fair to people. We have to be fair about the way we're looking at that sort of stuff. So look at it from a realistic point of view. Yeah. Do that. Absolutely. But then come back later and say, well, look, to be fair, that is the case. Yes. It's not easy. And so therefore, yes. But again, the path is supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be difficult. The whole idea that people think is supposed to be easy and they choose the easy path. Yeah, people know that it's not. The hard path is the one that we're supposed to be choosing, not the easy one. They know that again. So the problem is, there's so many things that people know, and yet they're ignoring. They're not walking according to what they know as being true. They're choosing the easier path and the easier way of doing things, even though they know that that's not true, that what they're doing isn't the way things should be done. But they're doing it in so many areas, they're doing it. And so when you add all these things together, it looks as if they don't have any desire for God. It looks as if that's the case. But again, we can't say that is the case. We can only say it looks as if that's the case. They are acting as if that's the case. But how horrific would it be for them if they know that? We've all done that. We've all been that person. We've all been there. All of us have been there. And again, it's not easy. And we're not supposed to be. Yeah. So again, I wish these people well. And that's what I say. We need to. I think that's something I'm going to have to pray about now. Getting words of knowledge from God about where people are and what's going on in people's minds. So therefore, you're more in a position to help. So if there's going to be people who really have that desire to be led, but don't voice it. Well, if God can show me who those people are, maybe I can help them. Maybe I can help them to do that. Anything, sir. It's only a maybe, but that's the point. Right now, I'm not doing anything of any use. I'm in a church where I'm not going to be involved in the ministry. I don't think so in any way, shape or form. Because I can't do things the way they do. Or the way they want things to be done. That's not me. I won't do things that way. I understand. Yeah. What I can't do, if they say to me, okay, you're going to be presenting next week or in 2 weeks' time. Yeah, can you tell us what you're going to be preaching? I'll have to say, no, I can't. And they can't do things that way. It's too risky. Not knowing what a person, when you know what a person's going to say, you can go over it and you can say, I'd rather you didn't say that. Can you change that to that? That's what the leaders will do. If they disagree with something, they have a chance to sort that out, don't they? But if you can't tell them, give them notice of what you're going to say, they can't do that. And yeah, they don't like that in any way, shape or form. They really, really don't. And yeah. I understand that they want to eradicate as much as possible risk. And again, you understand it because that's what the world does. And so therefore every business does that involves people. They want to eradicate as much as possible risk. So church is just going to do that, aren't they? Really? But that's another reason why they won't be led by God. Because it's risky. And that's the reason why I have very little hope for church. Because, risk is something that they want to get rid of. And if you're led by God, that's highly risky. And you do not know what God's going to do. So, yeah. Well, because God's not going to give you a week's notice on what he's going to say. Doesn't work that way. Enjoy.